Good afternoon from you too. My name is Chrysopolitou. I'm a biologist working in the Greek Biotech Wetland Center, and I'm here to talk to you about the need for finalizing the national strategy on biodiversity and promoting the adoption of policies and measures. Let me just start by saying just a few words about the organization I work for. It was established in 1991 in the city of Thessaloniki, and it has its roots in the Bulgaris Natural History Museum, which is actually, it's not an NGO, but it's a non-profit institute for research, public awareness, information, and education in the conservation of the natural environment. Well, the objective of AGVI, which has adopted the policies and principles of the museum, is to promote the sustainable management of renewable natural resources in Greece and in other Mediterranean countries and Europe. AGVI's fields of action include the inventory, mapping, management, restoration, monitoring, and data management of the renewable natural resources like forests, wetlands, and of course it has implemented many projects concerning the training and public awareness and the environmental education. It has a strong experience in the implementation of the EU legislation in Greece, mainly in aspects of nature and biodiversity. Some of them are the national implementation of the Habitats Directive, the Birds Directive, and the establishment of the Natura 2000 network. And furthermore, it had the coordination of the Part B of the second national report on Article 17 of the Habitats Directive. It provides support to covenant authorities, mainly to the Ministry of Environment, and it acts as a national reference center for biodiversity of the EDCBD, and it has implemented some 13 EU funding live projects. So let me go on with the main theme of the presentation. The term for the most accurate term for biological diversity is that included in the Convention on Biological Diversity, and it includes the variability among living organisms from all sources, including inter-allied, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part of. This, of course, includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. It is considered at three levels: the genetic diversity, the diversity of species, and the diversity of ecosystems. And it should be noted that the conservation should be treated as a whole, because the conservation of each level actually depends on the conservation of the previous or next level. So, due to the intrinsic value of biodiversity, it is first of all our moral imperative to preserve it. And nowadays we witness a transition from an approach based on conservation to a perspective that highlights the importance of biodiversity for human welfare. So the conservation of biodiversity actually arises from the need for human survival, as it allows us and humans and all other living organisms to adapt to a constantly changing environment. So biodiversity, it is considered to be vital to human health and well-being. It improves the life quality and our living standards. It contributes to social welfare and cohesion. And of course, it offers new opportunities for investment and job. Unfortunately, during the last decades, the development has coupled with the loss of biodiversity. This is causing concern, not only due to its special intrinsic value, but also because biodiversity is actually part of the background on which competitiveness, growth and employment is based. So the loss of biodiversity involves deterioration of services provided by ecosystem, and such ecosystem services are considered to be the production of food, fuel, fiber and pharmaceuticals, the regulation of water, air and climate, and the maintenance of soil fertility and nutrient cycle. So, as all of you may know, Greece is a country with a very rich flora and fauna and a really great variety of ecosystems and landscapes. with large number of endemic plants and animals, meaning plants and animals that live in Greece and nowhere else in the planet. And it's a refugee to many endangered and rare species on the European continent. And its privileged position compared to other countries can be attributed to its geographical position, its complex terrain, the diversity and aesthetics of the landscape, and the wide variety of habitats, good condition of the natural resources, and our cultural heritage. So here you can see some more or less representative figures concerning the species of Greece, the flora and fauna of Greece. And as I've mentioned before, one of the most important attributes of biodiversity in Greece is the high degree of endemism in animals and plant groups. And the ecosystems of Greece can be divided into 4 categories, you can see it here. And the main feature of the ecosystems is the high diversity, the naturalness, and the great capacity of natural recovery. So many of the above-mentioned species and habitats are of community interest. That means that they are included in the annexes of the Habitats Directive, and thus we have the obligation to preserve them or to restore them to a favorable conservation status. So this is the assessment for the habitat types performed in the framework of the second national report for the period 2001-2006. And it is, as you can see here, compared with the assessment on the EU level, it is a pretty, these are pretty good results, because we have more than half of our habitat types in a favorable conservation status. Let me just say here that this period did not include the great fires that took place in Greece in 2007, yes. And many of these are forest habitat types before they were actually burned. And we have only a minor percentage of unknowns, of unknown conservation status, and this is because in 2001 a large-scale project named the Identification, Description and Mapping of the Greek habitat types took place in Greece, so we had many, let's say, relatively recent data on habitat types. But unfortunately, this was not the case for the species. We have an enormous percentage of unknowns, and you can see where this percentage is twice as much as that arise from the European assessment. And we can blame the fact that we had no national monitoring program. So, as mentioned from previous speakers, the threats to biodiversity in Greece are the loss, degradation and fragmentation of habitats, the non-sustainable practice of productive activities, climate change, pollution, and the invasive alien species. So, for the protection of biodiversity, many actions took place on the international level, several conventions, directives, strategies,